Hey up guys! So today's movie up for discussion is the sure-to-be polarizing musical from French cult filmmaker Léos Carax. It's called Annette, and it was written by the Mael brothers, who were the two cult pop stars of the band Sparks. I had never heard of the Mael brothers or the band Sparks until 2 weeks ago when I watched Edgar Wright's fanboy documentary The Sparks Brothers at the Sundance London Film Festival. It was there that I learned that the Mael brothers had written Annette. And I think, in a way, watching Edgar Wright's documentary actually prepared me for what I was letting myself in for with Annette. You might say that these two films are unintentional and unexpected companion pieces. The glam rock duo Sparks have always flown under the radar. Like, they do have a huge fan base, but they've never really been mainstream because their success as a band was kind of a sleeper success. Mostly because they're too odd, quirky, and otherworldly to be appreciated by the mainstream. And yeah, they've been around forever, but I hadn't even heard of them until a couple weeks ago. So after watching the Edgar Wright documentary, going into Annette, I was expecting something weird, unconventional, and wonderful. And hoo boy, was I right. Just from the opening scene alone, which sees director Carax, the Mael brothers, and the cast, Adam Driver, Marion Cotillard, and Simon Helberg, all partake in this self-aware, one-take sequence from recording booth to the street, singing this song called So May We Start. You know immediately you're in for something completely different. Right out of the gate, I have to give credit to the Mael brothers and Carax for creating something that's experimental and unique, so props for that. I definitely think Annette is going to be an acquired taste. I don't think it's to my taste, but I can see this film having its fans, particularly in the cult world. The general gist of the plot is that this is a musical about a celebrity couple, a stand-up comedian called Henry, played by Adam Driver, and an opera singer called Anne, who's played by Marion Cotillard. So you might think from the sounds of this is a La La Land type story. Nope, this is not a cheerful, sunny musical about ambition, dreams, and falling in love. I mean, the characters do sing about falling in love, but it's just a very small fraction of the story. If I was going to compare it to anything, I would say thematically it's closer to the likes of A Star is Born, but a far more darker, surreal version of it. I'd say Annette is a mix of musical, a satire on celebrity culture, and occasionally a dark fairy tale. It has a very dreamlike atmosphere. There's a fusion of different elements, such as opera, theatre, stand-up comedy. There's biblical undertones with the fact that Anne is always seeming to be chomping on an apple, suggesting to the audience that she, like Eve in the Garden of Eden, is being tempted by the serpent. And there's some unorthodox creative choices that are very out there. The main one being the baby that Henry and Anne have together, that being their daughter, who is also the title of the film, Annette. I want to talk about Annette, the baby, but I kind of feel like it's a spoiler. So if you don't want it spoiled for you, jump ahead to the time code that's on the screen now. Still here? Okay, cool. So the baby Annette is actually a dummy or a puppet. Yeah, for real. It's a creative choice that's so out of left field that I think a lot of people will just turn the film off at that point. But yeah, Annette being a puppet is very Pinocchio, a dark, twisted fairy tale. The performances are strong. Marion Cotillard does what she can with what she's given, but really this is Adam Driver's film. There's a lot for him to work with here, from tender partner and father to towering, intimidating canon. After Henry is Me Too'd by 6 different women, his star begins to fade next to his divine wife, and so begins his descent into darkness, going as far as exploiting his baby daughter Annette, who has a voice just like her mother and can sing like an angel, and forces her to be a child star. I should also say that Simon Helberg is decent as Anne's accompanist and conductor. I don't think his character has a name. I think he's just called the conductor or accompanist. Might be wrong there. And some of you guys might not know is that Léos Carax actually won Best Director at this year's Cannes Film Festival for Annette, which honestly I found a little bit surprising because this is such an avant-garde film that I'm amazed that this was what the jury picked for Best Director this year. Not saying it's undeserved, I'm just surprised because it's just so out there. But I do have to applaud Carax for his ambition with Annette. His collaborative efforts with cinematographer Caroline Champetier and editor Nelly Quetier really result in making Annette feel like a fever dream experience whilst you're watching it. Like I said previously, there's a real sense of fusion between different mediums, such as opera, film, and theatre. Like the scene on the yacht with the storm coming down on them, it feels at times like you're watching a stage show of it because the background is all CGI, but they're on this rocky soundstagey boat thing with like people clearly just tossing buckets of water at them, you know, from the sides. It's a great example of how it simultaneously feels like an opera, but also kind of like a dream or a nightmare. Carax also manages to incorporate the color green into pretty much every scene, whether it's in the props, the lighting, or the costumes. There's a very noticeable green palette, which is something that Guillermo del Toro incorporated into his film, The Shape of Water. That film also had a very green palette, and Guillermo del Toro is an auteur known for fantasy storytelling. So while I can say I did appreciate the vision and style of Annette, the overall experience of watching this film just didn't do it for me. So let's ask them 3 questions. Firstly, would I watch this again? I do think Annette is a film that I need a second viewing of. There was a lot to take in with this film, and it walks a tightrope between brilliant and frustratingly difficult to appreciate. So I think I will give it another viewing at some point, but I'll have to be in the mood for it. Question number 2, do I recommend it for you guys? Oh, that is a tough one because Annette is definitely an acquired taste. I can't even say that it's a film for musical lovers because this is not going to be to everyone's taste. This is a pretentious, humorless art house musical that makes for a very challenging watch. I'll say it's ambitious, original, and it certainly takes risks, but like the Mael brothers, it's not accessible or mainstream to the average person. If you're a fan of Sparks, then I think you'll appreciate what they've made here. But honestly, I don't know who I would recommend Annette to. I don't know who this movie is for. And third question, what score to give it out of 10? I can see Annette being a film that a lot of people love and a lot of people hate. For me, it's a film that I ended up respecting more than I did enjoying. I'm still digesting this film, but I know it's not really to my tastes, but I can appreciate the film for its craft. So I'm going to give Annette a score of 5 out of 10. As always, guys, it's just one bloke's opinion. I would love to hear your thoughts on Annette. If you've seen it, I'm not sure who's going to see this film, but if you have seen it, let me know what you thought of it in that comment section down below. If you've enjoyed this review, hit that like button. If you want more movie, TV, and Oscars-related content, don't forget to click subscribe. And if you want to follow me on any of my social media links, all those links in the video description down below. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. For more things related to movies, TV, and popcorn culture, I'm Luke Carefield, and I'll see you next time.